I'm Karen Smith for GCTV Channel 6. Michael Butler, CEO of Tennessee Wildlife Federation, recently visited the area. Mike stopped by the smokehouse and talked with us about an upcoming vote on the constitutional right to hunt and fish.
We're here with Mike Butler of the Tennessee Wildlife Heritage Fund. Mike, who are you and what in the world are you doing up here at Monteagle at the smokehouse talking about something as serious as a constitutional amendment?
Well, I thought I was going to just eat lunch, and then I ran into all these yahoos up here that wanted to talk about different things like hunting and fishing and getting outdoors and how important it is to the state. And Monteagle is a real gem in south central Tennessee as you head over the Cumberland Plateau in Chattanooga. It's one of these places that I like to stop, and we're up here today talking with Jim Oliver and Ernie about the constitutional right to hunt and fish, which is going to be on the ballot November 2nd.
Why is a constitutional amendment necessary? That seems like a serious step.
Well, it is a serious step. You know, I'm an old Boy Scout, I'm an old Eagle Scout, and they taught us a long time ago, be prepared. And you don't want to wait until you need something if you're going to have to use it. So right now, hunting and fishing are pretty substantial traditions and institutions within the state of Tennessee. But we've seen some losses of these traditions in other states, primarily Michigan losing dove season forever through a public referendum. We've seen attempts to remove dove hunting in Wisconsin. We've seen losses of different seasons in New Jersey and California and some other places. And frankly, we're not comfortable waiting until we need it. 14 other states have amended their state constitutions to create personal rights to hunt and fish. This year on the ballot, Tennessee will have our measure on the ballot. Arkansas will have a measure on their ballot. South Carolina and Arizona will also have measures on their ballot. And so it's more of a preparatory, prevention-minded approach to make sure that the traditions of hunting and fishing in Tennessee are just not lost on a whim due to some aspect of the behavior of the legislature wanting to pass a bill against us someday.
Well, now we've had a privilege to hunt and fish in Tennessee since all the way back to Davy Crockett. What's the difference in a privilege and a right?
Well, right now, I mentioned just a second ago, the General Assembly could pass a bill by a simple majority to outlaw any hunting and fishing season we have in Tennessee, because the Constitution gives the General Assembly the authority to do so. And the governor would not have to sign this bill. It could sit on his desk for 14 days and become law under the rules and procedures that are enacted for how you pass bills into law. So, you know, from that standpoint, the only protection that we as citizens share from the will of the legislature in Tennessee is our Constitution. And as Tennessee becomes more and more urban, the people elected to the General Assembly represent values of those urban people. And in a place like Monteagle, which you still have a largely intact rural setting, these places are going to become less represented in the General Assembly. And so that dynamic of urban value versus rural value is going to become more into play over time as our state continues to grow. And we don't want to wait for urban legislators to sit there and say, we don't want to participate in hunting and fishing anymore. We want to say these rural values are important to preserve, and they're important enough to preserve by putting them in the state constitution.
Well, I'm not, that much of a hunter or fisherman. Why should I really care about this? Now, I'm interested in clean water and habitat, that sort of thing, but what does that have to do with hunting and fishing?
The original conservationists were and still are hunters and fishermen. We led the charge to create water treatment facilities in this state in the 50s. We've led the charge for funding initiatives for both land and aquatic habitats for fish and wildlife, and we still do so today. I think the other reason that a lot of people don't realize, Ron, is that hunting and fishing in Tennessee is a $2.4 billion industry. And that industry produces around 30,000 jobs and about $100 million in state sales tax revenue. That's not small change. That's a significant piece of business in the state of Tennessee. And all of those activities are sustainable because they're based on renewable resources, which are wildlife. Wildlife and fish are renewable resources, and so the economies that are based around these are sustainable economies. And as long as we protect the land and the water and all these things that produce this bountiful renewable resource that we enjoy, then these things should be able to persist for some time without a whole lot of infrastructure expense or tax dollars expense having to go into them.
Well, isn't this kind of a no-brainer? Sounds to me like won't all these licensed hunters and fishermen vote for this thing, and won't that take care of it?
Well, we think that's the case. We think we've got a lot of support across the state, but the big problem is a lot of people don't know about this effort. You know, I think our internal polling shows around 20% of the people in Tennessee are aware that this issue is going to be on the ballot. And so what's very important to understand is that right after you vote for governor, on the ballot is going to be the constitutional amendment. And it's amendment number 1. It is the only amendment on the ballot. And it's going to say, shall the people of Tennessee have the personal right to hunt and fish? And it'll have some other language there, but it's relatively short. And then underneath it, it's going to say yes or no. So we need everyone that's watching this tape and hears about this effort. When you go vote for governor, right after you vote for governor, be sure to check yes on Amendment 1, which is the constitutional right to hunt and fish.
Well, if I don't particularly care, why shouldn't I just ignore it and not vote one way or the other? I want to be neutral on it.
That's a great question. The requirements for ratifying an amendment to the Constitution in Tennessee require that we receive at least a simple majority of the number of votes cast in the governor's race. And so, for instance, 4 years ago, in Governor Bredeson's second election, 1.8 million people voted in the gubernatorial race, which meant we'd have to have 900,001 vote to ratify this. So if you vote for governor and you choose not to vote on this ballot measure, then you have effectively voted no. So let me say that again. There are 2 ways to vote no. You can vote no just by voting no, or you can just ignore the ballot altogether, vote for the governor and don't vote for anybody else or this initiative, and it's a no vote. So we need everybody to be purposeful. And when they go and vote, be purposeful and vote in the governor's race, and then vote on the amendment in the affirmative come November 2nd. Early voting starts October 13th, I believe.
Well, Mike, and like a lot of other things, the more questions you answer, the more questions it raises in my mind. Is there a website or something where I can go to if I want to explore this a little bit further?
Absolutely. We have a website that has a lot of great information. It's www.huntandfishtn.com. That's hunt and fish spelled out, huntandfishtn.com. And on that site, you're going to see who our supporters are. We've got some clips by Craig Morgan and by Bill Dance, who have endorsed the campaign. Coach Fulmer will have a clip up from him pretty soon. It also has a lot of great research material on the site that shows and backs up a lot of the things that I'm talking about here. And there's a great paper that was done in the Tennessee Law Review that shows that rights to hunt and fish started back in the Roman days and worked their way through history all the way to today in the United States.
You mentioned supporters there. Now, in order for this to get on the ballot, what was required? I think the legislature had to do something there. And how many of those people are in favor of this?
Well, just to get it on the ballot, we had to pass 2 separate General Assembly sessions. And our last session that we passed was in March of this past year. It was the last day of March 2010. We had every sponsor, every senator in the Senate came on board as a sponsor. And I would say 75% of the House members came on as sponsors. We only had 1 opposing vote in either chamber both times we had to pass this. So we had a lot of support at the General Assembly for this effort.
Now, you mentioned something earlier about the timing. The timing was right now, or we need to do it now, or it's too late. When did this effort start to even get this before the voters? We
started in 2004. Because what you have to make sure when you're amending the Constitution, the number 1 most important thing is to get the language of the amendment right. And it takes a lot of time to get the people in place and work through all the different versions of language so that you mean what you say what you mean, and you nail it down nice and tight so that it doesn't do things that you don't want it to do. For instance, this amendment doesn't allow people to trespass to hunt or fish. It doesn't allow people to go outside the laws that are in place right now that regulate hunting. And that's very important to understand. So, we had to spend a lot of time getting the language right. And then on top of that, it's tough to amend the Constitution. You have to get a simple majority vote that first legislative session, and you have to get a supermajority vote the second legislative session.
Now, Mike, you said "we" in talking about coming up with the wording for this amendment. Who is "we" and why were they qualified to even write an amendment?
Well, we had several we's, so to speak. We had attorneys from the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency that were working with us to make sure the language was at least to their liking. We had the Attorney General's office working with us. We had leadership in the House and Senate working with us. Our sponsors in the House and Senate, Representative Joe McCord, Senator Doug Jackson of Dixon. We also had one very important person, the former Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court, Lyle Reed, who is a friend of ours from Brownsville, Tennessee, and he helped write the majority of the language that's in that amendment as you see it today.
Now, you mentioned TWRA there. Some people have mentioned, well, why isn't TWRA coming out for this, against it, or whatever? Are there some...
Primarily as a state agency, they can't take a position on the amendment. They're educating people that it's out there, that it's important to learn more about it, but it wouldn't be right for them to advocate a position one over the other, just like it wasn't proper for different agencies to do so when we had the amendment on the lottery a few years back.
So if I want to learn more about this, what's that website again?
huntandfishtn.com. We also have a lot of partners that folks around here are going to know about: National Wild Turkey Federation, the National Wildlife Federation, Quail Unlimited, Delta Waterfowl, the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation, I believe Quail Forever. Most of the conservation organizations that we've spoken to across the state have come on board to support this in the last 3 months.
And I believe you have several businesses on there that are, in addition to being good citizens of Tennessee, they have a vested
Exactly.
interest.
And if you have a business, or you know somebody that has a business that wants to have them listed, if you have a business or you know someone that has a business and they want to be listed as a sponsor or a supporter, all they need to do is email us. Send us an email saying, "I want my business listed," at huntandfishtn@gmail.com. That's huntandfishtn@gmail.com, and we can post their name and their business name up on the website.
Now, if I don't have a business, I don't have a vote in the legislature, I'm just an average citizen of Tennessee that's interested in the future of Tennessee, what can I do to help?
Well, if you're a citizen in Tennessee, then you're as important or more important than any of those other groups that we've mentioned, because that means you have a vote. And you can tell your friends, and you can tell all your family, and you can call us and get information and materials to hand out to your friends. It's very important that people share this with all the people they know. Share it with the people you go to church with. Share it with the folks that you play rook with on Thursday nights or whatever you do. But get out there and share it with folks and let them know. Send them to the website huntandfishtn.com so that they can learn more and spread the word. We're also on Facebook. If you do a search on Facebook for Tennessee Right to Hunt and Fish campaign, we're coming up on 2,000 friends on Facebook in a very short period of time. We're really going for a goal, Ron, of 1 million votes. And that's going to take a lot of effort. But we're the volunteer state. We got a lot of people helping us, and I think we're going to hit that goal.
So there's no reason in the world why I should, after November the 4th, be sitting here saying, "Wish I had done something." How in the world did that happen?
No reason at all. Get online, learn more about it, call us, get in touch however you can, and we'll take care of the rest in terms of getting you the information you need.
Remember to vote in the general election on November 2nd. Early voting is October 13th through 28th. Please remember to vote on this important issue.